Hello.
Beyond.
I didn't even know what to say.
I know.
Well, I did that whole intro muted, so we're off to a great start. Anyway, PlayStation 5, we got to look at the future of gaming, and it's definitely a lot squigglier than I think a lot of us were expecting. Hey, everybody, I'm Max, that's Lucy, that's Jonathan, that's Brian. We do a PlayStation podcast every week, and dear God, we haven't had anything to talk about for quite some time, but now we finally do.
Too much.
I don't know what compelled me to do this today, but I brought my white Vita to the shoot today, just because I wanted it nearby, and it feels like it fits in with the family of the PS5 that we just saw.
It
I
really,
love
really does.
So much. Oh my God, you guys, this is
great.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start things off. We got our first look at the console after like a lot of kind of wait. We still do not have a release date or a price, which is like the top two things people are currently frantically Googling. That could change sooner or later. Who knows? That might go up quietly in a Wired article, or it might be the thing that Sony reveals during whatever happens for the thing to replace Gamescom later this summer. So I was not expecting two different versions. I was not expecting a digital and digital only, and then a regular version with a disc drive on it. What did you guys make of that, Jonathan?
I think it's genius. Jonathan, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm very excited.
You're all good. No, we're all so excited. It's crazy. No, I do think that's very telling, probably, of what the price might end up being. Because obviously the digital edition will probably come in at a little cheaper if they have the same storage space. And that might be a way to undercut what may be a high price point for the sort of standard version of the box. But I think it makes a lot of sense. Granted, a lot of people still do buy physical games, but we've seen, especially in the past few months, people are more than willing to buy a lot of games digitally when they need to. And so I think it makes sense depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. I think that we could actually see these consoles be comparable in price if the digital one is offset by having a much bigger drive. If there's something like 3 terabytes in there or more, I think that's a good way to future-proof it. I'm already torn on which one I want, which I think is a good problem for them to have.
Now, Lucy, you've been very vocal on Twitter about how much you wanted like a stupid design. You wanted it to look like the Homer, the car designed for Homer Simpson.
Well,
is it dumb enough?
It's perfect. This is what my tweet was, all right? I'm sick of black box console design. I want the PS5 to be a triangle with some sort of origami folding structure, bright orange, and it sings some real Homer's car stuff, honks when you turn it on, let's go nuts. That was my tweet. I feel like, that was obviously, I was swinging for the fences there, but I feel like what we actually got was kind of on par with that. It's wild. It's such a crazy design. It's incredibly futuristic. It's bizarre. It kind of doesn't make any sense. It looks like it does look like a sort of like a PC rig that someone very high built. And I really, really love that.
Yeah, it's funny that the Xbox Series X has the like standard PC console tower, and this one's like, oh, I spent $30,000 extra bucks on lights and doohickeys to make it go crazy. Like I do think some of the design is definitely there for the ventilation, because as we've all discussed on Beyond, the PS4 Pro sounds like a jet engine all the time, so they probably work to fix that. But yeah, I love it.
This is the first time a video game console has been on par with the fake video game consoles that leaked before the real video game consoles come out. Like, there's always these mock renders that come out that are so ridiculously over the top, like the Nintendo Revolution, which was like this cyborg helmet. This looks like one of those fake mock-ups. If we had seen this a month ago, we would have been like, yeah, right, no way in hell. Somebody made that in AutoCAD. This is nonsense. You're a liar. And now it's here. And I'm like, yeah, it's real.
But of course, it's also got the same aesthetic and design as the DualSense. Like, I don't really know why we thought it was going to be more conservative. It's very much a DualSense companion.
Yeah, I'm into that. It was really weird seeing this whole family of hardware lined up. Like, we got to look at the new headphones. There's going to be a dedicated charging cradle thing, which I guess, interested in, but also sort of skeptical of, because we were told that the DualSense is going to have a better battery life. I don't know how it would have a worse battery life than the DualShock 4, but I mean, that seems like an odd peripheral to sort of cart out at launch. The media remote is kind of a bold one. That's always been sort of an after-the-fact type of thing. I feel like to sort of put that out front and center is pretty much acknowledging that, yeah, a lot of people use this as their dedicated, media device. We got I was expecting a little bit more details on sort of the hardware aside from what it looks like. Sony told us to wear headphones for the event to give us the best experience possible. I feel like there's a lot we still don't know. Like, they hyped up the haptic feedback stuff the DualSense does, and there's obviously going to be 3D audio things, but I almost feel like that's stuff that we can't fully properly comprehend. So I think in lieu of that, they were like, here's a crap load of games.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears and talk about that. We had a few like real bangers out of that. Let's talk about Horizon Forbidden West. We've been joking for ages about what are they going to call it. I think Forbidden West is a damn good name. Lucy, you're a huge Horizon fan.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like the name is very much like, hey, let's put our hand in this bowl of words and then throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And Forbidden West is as good as any, right? I think it looks amazing. I think I'm so excited. Again, I've always said I wasn't super keen on Horizon 2 coming out like at launch. But like what we've seen already is so damn impressive. I wouldn't be sad if it did. I think one of the coolest things we saw is the more kind of organic machine design. I love that kind of hulking, almost like Shadow of the Colossus vibe that one machine had. Obviously, they're expanding to underwater environments, and again, like very Jaws-like and terrifying. I felt very claustrophobic being in that scene with Aloy. And I'm very pleased that Aloy is back as well. Like we discuss a lot on the show about whether she was going to return, but I think, Sony really has established her as one of PlayStation's biggest and strongest mascots, and I'm stoked to see her come back.
Yeah, I'm very curious to check out the setting and see what they do with the new hardware. That shot at the end had a little Golden Gate Bridge peeking up there in the Transamerica building, so I think we're going to see a totally ruined San Francisco. Ruined in a much more imaginative way than it actually is. Now, shifting gears to the other coast, we also got a look at Spider-Man Miles Morales, which was how they kicked off the show, and all of us, collectively lost our S word over that. Jonathan, you were predicting some cool stuff from Insomniac. What did you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, we cursed quite a bit in our off live feed when that happened, because first off, just like what an intro that is for this showcase. That was such a smart, kind of unexpected thing, because I think a lot of us were sort of expecting Spider-Man 2 to come a little bit later. And I think there's a little bit of debate. I saw some conversation online of whether this will be proper Spider-Man 2 or if this is maybe something in between proper numbered sequels. It seems to be likely we're staying within Manhattan, obviously, but the focus will be on Miles, who everyone loved the bits and pieces of storytelling and character building we got from him in the first game, but this is clearly going to put him as the playable character. It's set during Christmas time, so that means they can probably keep people off the streets because it's cold in New York City and you got to stay inside because of the snow. But I like this first look looks gorgeous. Spider-Man is obviously one of the biggest PS4 exclusives, and to have this at holiday this year, like this is coming in if not on launch day, within that launch window for PS5, is probably going to be the biggest way they're going to sell this. Like whatever the price is, you want to play the next Spider-Man game. This was such a smart move to have.
I'm pretty excited about this. I think I get the sense that it's going to be sort of like a Uncharted Lost Legacy or Infamous First Light type of thing, where it's not, it's kind of a half measure, but not in a bad way. And it's going to be cool to see kind of that like side-by-side comparison of like, we all know what that version of New York looks like on PS4, and to jump into that on PS5 should be pretty cool. I imagine the snow will look very nice. Anyway, Brian, Resident Evil, you got real worked up on that one.
Oh my God, guys! Resident Evil 8. First of all, this is I think this might be my favorite reveal of the day, if not the year. Huge Resident Evil fan, as many of you are watching the show today, and even on the cast right here. Resident Evil 8 was a really, really wonderful surprise, despite having heard a lot of the rumors. Actually, seeing it come together in reality made me super happy. It looks like it's going back to a sort of like Resident Evil 4 style village mixed with the castle, mixed with like some cult elements, and then most importantly, werewolves, which is brand new for the franchise, unless it was in like some weird PS1 online only game that I missed. Who knows? And this game is sort of spiritual successor to Resident Evil 7, but also feels a lot more evocative to some of my favorite stuff from some of the more ancient Resident Evil games, like 4 specifically. Seeing that sort of like kind of rugged rural back area of the castle and the village and stuff like that coming together. Plus there's a little bit of mansion in there too. So it feels like it's ticking all the right boxes for like hardcore old school Resident Evil fans. And then obviously carrying a lot of the stuff that Resident Evil 7 brought to the table, which I think made me really, really happy. I just want to know if this is going to have VR support. Like where's PSVR 2? Obviously a lot of questions. I feel like you could make a white PSVR pretty easily, make it line up with everything in there. But yeah, Cannot wait for this one.
Brian, I'm very excited for this as well. I mean, you touched on it, that it looks kind of old school. It straddles the line between old school and what, Resident Evil 7 brought to the table. But, it looks really eccentric. It's got that eccentric vibe to it, which I love from the old games. Like the characters already look completely off the wall. And I'm just so excited for that to return.
Yeah, I think that people don't give the Resident Evil franchise enough credit for like balancing campiness and horror at the same time. That's one of my favorite things about Resident Evil 4 is that it is sort of campy. It is very action movie, and a lot of the dialogue is funny and stilted. And even with this, like we saw with Chris showing up, and like that whole interaction was just like almost hilarious. But it just works. It just works. They just constantly find that balance. I cannot wait to explore this game.
I'm very excited about this. I love that we did have like rumors and leaks about how it's going to have werewolves and witches, and people are like, that sounds ludicrous. That sounds like Halloween decorations. And they're clearly leading into this kind of Grimm's fairy tale, almost a Bloodborne kind of gothic horror approach. We have a lot more to talk about, but we have to take a very quick break. If you just tuned in, we have a donation going. We are gathering donations for the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Response Fund, as well as the Bail Project. If you want to look at that, we've got links in the description, as well as you can go to donate.ign.com, kick in a few bucks. We have lots more Summer of Gaming and PlayStation 5, I almost said 5 breakdown right after this. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Rated M for mature.
I feel so extraordinary. Something's gotta hold on. This feeling of a sudden sense of liberty. I used to think that the day would never come. I see the light in the shade of the morning sun. My morning sun is the drug that brings me near to the childhood I lost, replaced by fear.
And welcome back. We are unpacking all of the things that happened in the big old Sony PlayStation 5 event, and it's always one of the more difficult things to form coherent sentences when you're all jazzed up and excited about cool, new, shiny things. There were a lot of games on that presentation. We saw a whole lot of them. One of the first ones, we got a chance to talk about Spider-Man Miles Morales a second ago. Insomniac apparently has been very busy. Jonathon, you're a big Ratchet and Clank fan. Tell us about this new one.
I'm so excited about this one. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Altano for his misreading of the subtitle of this game, which, Brian, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's called Ratchet and Clank Rips Apart, and I thought it said Rip Apart, and that's not probably not unintentional, because this franchise has a series of sort of innuendo-based titles like Up Your Arsenal and
Going Commando. Yeah, they like to do that. So I feel like this was a really great showing for a new Ratchet. It clearly, I think, was the best example of what we've heard about from Sony for the PS5's SSD, basically minimizing or erasing load times as we know them in current games. And you see the way that Ratchet is jumping from different environment to different environment. Other elements from other environments are coming in. He's able to sort of shift the reality like via these rifts around him. It seems to really be showing off that, hey, all this stuff is going to be instantaneous and it's going to still look beautiful. It's going to run well. Like, you don't need to worry about a load in between each of those rift jumps. I think this looks gorgeous. I think this was one of the smartest reveals to kind of showcase what is probably a hard thing to show off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also love there's a gun here that turns people into trees, I think, which is like pretty on brand for, that's new, yeah?
That's a new weapon as far as I know. It may have been in one of there's been a lot of Ratchet games, so I may not know exactly every weapon, but they always have wacky arsenals, and so I wouldn't be surprised. They said this is going to kind of take advantage of the DualSense. Again, we didn't really get a sense of that, for lack of a better term, but I'm excited to see how each of these weapons plays into the different adaptive triggers and the haptic feedback that the DualSense will have.
I could definitely see Insomniac getting silly with something that would be otherwise very gimmicky, but really just having fun with it. Also, if I hadn't played that last game, I would think that this was complete and utter, like, just fakery. Like, this looks so good, but like that last game also looked insanely good. So they know what they're doing over there. Now, on sort of the other end of the visual fidelity spectrum, one of the more weird, like, little indie games was Little Devil Inside. Brian, tell us about this.
Sure thing. Little Devil Inside is, I think, one of my favorite games we saw of the show so far today. It starts off basically looking, I thought this would be sort of like a 2D puzzle platformer, and what it turns into is what looks like something like an open world survival game with this very almost like 1960s claymation looking protagonist who is trying to make his way through the world with a gun and a bunch of weapons, and taking on hordes of nightmarish creatures and monsters and going through incredible, really cool stylized environments and big nasty beasts. And this is my type of game. You know, these are the kind of games that I like to get lost in for 100 hours. I don't know if it had sort of Souls-like elements. It feels like it had some of that. We were sort of saying to each other during the show that it felt like sort of like a Souls-like for kids, but then there was actually a lot more darker thematic stuff in here, such as shooting the bear in the butt, which I'm a big fan of. It also seemed like it had a really good sense of humor. Like, it continually cut back to like that old man kind of like hanging out. There's a restaurant or a store called Schmeat, which I guess is a butcher shop. So I don't know if this is like, it's hard to tell if this is like an old man is recanting his stories as a child adventure, or he sent a child out into the world to do his bidding.
I mean, but really, there's a lot to try to unpack here, and it's one of those games where it's pretty hard to make sense of what exactly it is you're doing. Fun thing about this is this wasn't a world premiere reveal. This has a Steam page that has been around since 2015 and was, I believe, a Kickstarter game. So it seems like, you know, Sony's been paying close attention and scooped up some projects that really like have been in the works for a while, but maybe haven't had the, you know, correct amount of hype associated with them. Another one that's also been kind of kicking around was Stray, which was the futuristic cyberpunk game where you're a cat wearing a backpack, which is cool.
Oh, Stray looked so good. So good.
This was one of those games. If you go and follow HK Devblog on Twitter, Stray has been floating around for quite some time. It was one of those things where they're like, hey, here's a work in progress. It doesn't have a title. We don't have a release date. We don't know what it is. But it was these like cool little gifs of like a cat walking around in a world full of robots. And I was like, I would love to play this game. I wonder if it'll ever happen. Lo and behold, it's apparently happening. It's just kind of neat to see these projects actually get, you know, put front and center as more than tech demos or sort of, you know, arts and crafts stuff. Again, like, I don't know what this game is about, really. You're a cat. There's robots. Lucy, what do you think? What do you think you do?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's like, for me, the aesthetic is so gorgeous and it's got cats in it. So those two things combined are very much, you know, up my alley. That's all I need to know right now. I really hope you do play as the cat. It's been like, you know, what was the last game you played as a cat in? It was that Ghost Detective game. It was a Ghost Detective game. You know the one.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. But anyway, like, I love the idea of actually playing as one of these little creatures in a world that is like full of like little avenues, little like hidey holes and labyrinthian environments and stuff. And I adore the look of this game.
I'm like pretty down on any game where you don't play as like a conventional humanoid thing because I'm a humanoid every day. Like I wake up and I'm like, oh look at I have the 2 legs and the 2 arms, how ambular or whatever. But like, give me a video game where you're playing as like a quadruped or some sort of nonsense animal. Lucy, you mentioned the Ghost game that we forgot the name of. What about Ghostwire Tokyo? This is a new game. We got this revealed at E3 last year. This is from Shinji Mikami's studio. Tell us about it.
Yes, Tango. I just want to point out that the power of my hype for this game has actually killed one of my lights, so that's why that's why my blue light's suddenly gone. But look, it looked amazing. I did not expect this game to be first person. I didn't expect it to sort of be this amazingly cool cross between Control and Dishonored. It looks less like traditionally spooky than we've come to expect from Tango Gameworks, but at the same time, I think it's incredibly intriguing, and it's got some very cool little horror tropes in there as well. Of course, the headless schoolgirl and a sort of Slender Man type character. I think it's still kind of an unknown. It's slightly unknowable as to how you actually play this thing, but it just looks so cool and so different and unlike anything that we've sort of seen from Shinji Mikami and his studio before. So I'm really intrigued by it, and I can't wait to see more.
Well, we have to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. I really want to talk about Demon Souls, and I know the rest of us do too, and I'm sure we're just real salty we didn't get to see any Elden Ring. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
IGN Summer of Gaming is brought to you by Fuser, who will be partying with us all summer long.
Rated M for mature.
I feel so extraordinary. Something's got a hold on me. This feeling of emotion, sudden sense of liberty. I used to think that the day would never come. I see the light in the shade of the morning sun. My morning sun is the drug that brings me near to the childhood I lost, replaced by fear. White shirt, now red, my blood, you know we're sleeping. You tippy toes creeping around like no one knows. Thank you, I'm the bad guy.
I see you with the other dude. He seemed like it was pretty cool. I was so broken over you. My dick goes on, what can you do?
I like it when you take control.
And welcome back. Here we are. We are discussing everything coming out of the PlayStation 5 thing. And as I said, sometimes you forget what you're supposed to say at these times. And our good friend Jonathon Dornbush had to go and get ready for the next show, which is coming up after this, which is IGN's Next Gen Console Watch, in which he will have to defend the incredibly stupid-looking PlayStation 5 that we love so dearly against the very normal-looking Xbox Series X. They're going to have a nice, reasonable, balanced conversation about that. And the chat will erupt in argument.
I'm glad I am not on that show, because I am all for this ridiculous design over the completely conservative Xbox Series X design.
I mean, I feel like it's just like an interesting time for hardware. Like
Like we see every time, social media is completely split on the design of this thing right now. I just saw a bunch of people comparing it to a Netgear router, and other people, I compared it to like a building in Minority Report crossed with the Nintendo Wii. Like there was a guy that took a picture of his router and put two white envelopes on the side, and like it's I mean, this is a wonderful time. I love watching people latch onto this.
We will inevitably argue about it back and forth until we all have one in our homes, and then we'll just forget that it was once dumb looking. Anyway, let's talk about Demon's Souls. This was one of the things we've heard rumors for quite some time. Bluepoint, who did the Shadow of the Colossus remastered, has been apparently working very hard on a gigantic, massive, huge project, and this was one of the many, many titles we were speculating it might be. Lucy, you are a huge Demon's Souls fan. What should we know about this?
Well, I mean, for starters, this was rumored for a long time, so I'm very, very happy it came to fruition. Demon's Souls was kind of like, it was like the little fish before it became man. You know what I mean? Like before Soulsborne became the thing that it is. It started with Demon's Souls, and as such, a lot of people actually never played it. They picked it up at Dark Souls or Dark Souls 2 or Bloodborne in the case of many of us. But I did play Demon's Souls back in the day, and it is an absolutely gorgeous game. It's kind of janky enough now that it doesn't it would be very hard to jump back into, as it stands as the original game. So I'm so pleased it's getting what looks like an absolutely gorgeous remaster. And this is a proper, sort of remake, it seems, from the ground up, because we didn't even recognize it at first. And, I'd sunk hours and hours into this game. And Bluepoint is so good at this stuff. It just has such a fantastic track record that, I'm so stoked that this is the next franchise that they're touching.
What should people who have never touched Demon's Souls know going in if they've played other FromSoft games?
I mean, again, it's been a while since I played it. It is just, and I think, to be honest, Max, it was that sort of Dark Souls-esque thing that hooked me in the first place, like that FromSoft magic that I'd actually never seen before. And obviously, we have all subsequently discovered in further FromSoft games, just that sense of scale. And again, just that sort of hugeness of the enemies and sort of stumbling across environments that you shouldn't stumble across. All those things we know and love from FromSoft. I mean, they all began with Demon's Souls. It's going to take a second for me to get refreshed on this game because, again, it was so long ago. I think 10 years since I played it. But again, it is like the forgotten child of FromSoft, and I'm very pleased that it's going to be popularized again.
Yeah, this is definitely a surprising one for Bluepoint, but because we saw that tweet last year basically rumoring that it, or at least alluding to that it could have been any number of PlayStation games. They literally dropped the name of pretty much every PlayStation or PlayStation adjacent game in history in one tweet. But this is a nice surprise. I'm totally going to dig into this one. I skipped this the first time around, and so this is going to be a brand new game for me. I'm really, really excited to play it.
I also just quickly want to point out that it was that and Resi was they were really refreshing changes of pace in that showing, which was really focused on kids games for the most part, which makes complete sense because it's a holiday period when the PlayStation 5 is going to be released, and kids are going to want these things. But I was very happy to see something that was kind of more our speed as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, a lot of people are dying to see Elden Ring, which is FromSoft's next big project with George R.R. Martin. That was first revealed on the Xbox stage, which is also, I think, where Sekiro got revealed. So it wouldn't surprise me whenever Microsoft decides to do another Direct for the Series X if we got a better look at Elden Ring then.
It's looking like they're going to talk about stuff on their side in July. I think that obviously the next gen and the lead up to it has been this giant game of chicken. We still don't have a price or release date for any of these consoles, and I think people are each side is sort of waiting. And it seemed like they had something planned because they had initially said they wanted to drop information every month, and then PlayStation came out and said, "Hey, we're doing this big thing today," which honestly is the most I've felt like it's E3 this year. Like that felt like. That honestly felt like sitting through an hour-long PlayStation press conference. It had all the great pacing. It didn't feel like a state of play, and I really liked how sort of monumentous it felt. It really felt classy and put together.
It managed to be tight while still kind of having some pageantry to it. One thing that's interesting is that a lot of these games, obviously, I think last I checked, the PlayStation 5 is coming out holiday 2020 at some point. a lot of these games are slated for 2021. The only 3 that had a hard 2020 release date were Miles Morales, Jet, which was the Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery game, and then Godfall, which is Gearbox's new game, which all said holiday 2020. Meanwhile, 2021 had GTA 5 updates, Ghostwire Tokyo, Stray, Goodbye Volcano High, The Sad Dinosaur Yearbook, throw your yearbook in the fire game, Solar Ash, Hitman 3, NBA 2K21, obviously that's a 2021 game, and then Resident Evil 8, and then Pragmata's 2022. That's the weird Capcom game with the X-ray cat. It looked like a Death Stranding. And then Gran Turismo 7 and Horizon and Demon's Souls and Project Athia. None of those have release dates. So, like, I don't know. Jury's still out on what we're going to be playing this fall, you know?
I mean, we're going to be playing Spider-Man. That's the flagship first-party title for sure. But we're also be playing a ton of third-party stuff. I think that this was them being like, this is, we're planting the flag. This is what our first-party studios that are ready to talk right now are working on. This is what you'll be playing soon. But the next few months are going to be the rollout of everything that we expect to see from third parties. And, companies like EA and Ubisoft always do a really good job of supporting next-gen consoles and new consoles on day one. And obviously the games that they're working on, these are going to be the best versions of those things will be running on PS5 and the Series X. So I think that like this showed today what they're working on internally, but third parties are going to be really padding out that lineup come this fall.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to see a lot of we're going to be playing, Ubisoft games. We're going to be playing Watch Dogs Legion. That's the kind of thing we're going to be playing to begin with, much as we did when the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One were released. But I do really love the addition of Spider-Man Miles Morales because we didn't really have anything like that with the last generation's launch. And I'm stoked that there's a sort of a very cool PlayStation exclusive in there that everyone is going to want to play.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's a half measure between a proper Spider-Man 2, that was one of the best controlling, most fun video games probably of all time. And so I'll take more of it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the third-party stuff is, because obviously with with multi-platform releases, it's always this weird sort of back and forth where we'll see games that are huge on PlayStation get revealed on an Xbox stage and vice versa. So I want to see what happens next. In the meantime, we have to sort of wrap things up here. If you want more of us rambling about PlayStation, we do that literally every week. Jonathon Dornbush usually leads the charge on us and runs a much tighter ship than I do. But that's you can find that on YouTube.com. Oh, thank you, Luz. You can find that on IGN, youtube.com/IGN Beyond, or wherever you get your podcasts. Right now, or coming up, we've got Next Gen Console Watch, where everyone's going to kind of argue about the two different shaped boxes and what they will do in the future for games. But don't forget, we keep those donations coming. What is coming up next? Am I looking at the wrong thing on my screen? Probably. I can't even read that. Anyway, we're doing a donation drive. The wheels are falling off of my particular car. But if you want to support the COVID-19 Response Fund for the World Health Organization or the Bail Project, you can head to donate.ign.com or check the description of this video for some donation links. Next Gen Console Watch 2020 brings more details on the PS5. And following that, we've got news, games, and more. That's around 3 p.m. Pacific. And then tomorrow, we've got lots more of this stuff. We've got some more game reveals. We've got some more interviews, more gameplay, all sorts of stuff. And then just a lot of stuff. Lucy, Brian, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for talking
Thank you, guys. I could not have had a better group of friends to see the PlayStation 5 for the first time for. We were giddy in the chat. Obviously, Max plugged it already, but we will be doing a full hour-long episode of Beyond, sort of like spreading our wings a little bit about how we feel about all of this. And so that'll go up on your podcast platforms and YouTube and stuff as soon as we finish recording it. But yeah, I had a blast with you guys today. We're just getting started, so this is the best.
This felt like being at E3 for me. I miss you guys so much, and this was just such like a delightful thing to do today.
This was fun. It's nice to get excited about stuff. Well, thanks everyone who watched, and stick around. There's lots more coming up on IGN Summer of Games. Gaming.